The film opens with a chase. A man named Paul and a woman named Lucy sprint through dark alleys, pursued by hooded men. Paul activates a strange device and tells Lucy that Grace will protect Gwendolyn. They disappear before a gunman can fire. 16 years later, it is Charlotte's 16th birthday. Charlotte is Gwen's cousin, elegant, celebrated, groomed since birth for a destiny tied to a rare genetic defect that supposedly gives her the ability to travel through time. Gwen's family, the Montrose side, is considered the embarrassing branch of an otherwise aristocratic tree. They dress in jeans, they eat takeaway. Gwen is the designated black sheep. At the birthday party, Charlotte taunts Gwen that she will never find a date for the school ball, and a strikingly handsome young man named Gideon de Villiers arrives and immediately devotes all his attention to Charlotte. Gwen tries to introduce herself. He asks her to fetch drinks. She spills champagne all over his jacket and escapes to her room. Later that same evening, Charlotte faints, is wrapped in ceremonial white, and disappears with Gideon and a group of robed family members to somewhere no one tells Gwen anything about. Gwen's great-aunt Maddie, the family eccentric who reads tea leaves and claims to have visions, tells her that Charlotte has just been formally identified as the Ruby, the last of 12 time travelers prophesied by the order of Count Saint-Germain. Gideon carries the same gene through his family's male line. The ceremony is ancient and extremely serious, and Gwen thinks it all sounds like the world's most boring theme park. The next day is Gwen's own birthday. At school, her vision begins to blur. She sees a ghost in period clothing in the corridor. She feels nauseous. She steps outside the house for air and faints. And when she opens her eyes, she is standing in a 19th century street where a woman immediately accuses her of theft. A crowd forms, screaming. Gwen runs, apologizing in modern English to people in bonnets, and disappears back to her own time before they can throw her in a madhouse. She calls her best friend Leslie from the Millennium Bridge, where Leslie immediately tells her to get off the bridge, because if she time travels from there, she will fall into the Thames. Gwen goes home and finds a modest birthday party waiting. Her mother Grace, her brother Nick, and a small group of people who love her. Grace gives her a locket that Gwen does not yet understand. At the dinner table, Aunt Maddie has a vision. She sees Gwen falling, sees Lucy, sees the egg of sapphire, and grabs Gwen's hands, terrified, begging her to promise to take care of herself. That night, Gwen wakes sweating and travels again, this time to 1994, where she finds herself standing in her grandfather's study. He is alive. He is calm. He calls her Ruby and tells her to hide immediately. Two men arrive, furious, accusing Grace of helping Paul and Lucy steal the chronograph and escape. Her grandfather plays the gracious host and tries to reason with them. Gwen is pulled back to her timeline before she hears the end. Grace takes Gwen to the lodge, the Order of Count Saint-Germain, to register her and stop the uncontrolled time travel. The Order's reaction to Gwen is not welcoming. Charlotte's mother is outraged, convinced Gwen is attention-seeking. The senior members are skeptical. Then Grace confesses the truth. She changed Gwen's birth certificate. Gwen was born on the same day as Charlotte, the day Isaac Newton calculated would produce the final time traveler. Grace forged the documents because she did not want Gwen to be sucked into the Lodge's world. The Lodge was furious 16 years ago when Grace helped Lucy and Paul escape with the first chronograph, and they have not forgiven her. The revelation changes everything. A doctor named Mr. White takes a blood sample to test against the second chronograph, the one the Lodge built to replace the stolen original. Then Gwen is taken to meet Gideon. He recognizes her immediately. He says the dress she ruined is still at the dry cleaners. She is taken to a room called the Hall of the Dragon, which is the Lodge's safe room, a space that exists in all time periods simultaneously, where a time traveler can always land safely, regardless of when they travel from. Gwen faints into the past, right on cue, emerges in the same room several decades earlier, finds a notebook left by her grandfather, reads his message. Blood opens the lock, trust your magic, and returns to her own time. The entire lodge watches her appear out of thin air. Charlotte is confirmed. Gwen is the Ruby. Charlotte is devastated. She and Gideon have been trained as a pair for years. She for the Ruby's role, he for the Diamond's, and she tells him that whatever happens, they will always belong together. Gideon does not quite respond the way she hopes. Gwen, meanwhile, is fitted for period costumes by the gloriously theatrical Madame Rossini, who declares her a young filly and begins altering everything Charlotte had prepared. Gwen's mission, she is told, involves meeting the 12 time travelers of the blood circle in their own centuries and collecting their blood for the second chronograph. Gideon has already visited 6. The remaining 4 include a woman named Lady Tilney, also called Jade, born in 1884, who has agreed to cooperate only if Gwendolyn Shepherd comes in person. Nobody explains how Lady Tilney knows Gwen's name. Their first official mission together takes them to April 1912, days before the Titanic sinks. Lady Tilney greets Gwen with immediate warmth. She has clearly had visitors from the future before, and compliments her boots. Before Lady Tilney can give her blood, Paul walks out of an inner room. Then Lucy appears. Lucy grabs Gwen's hands and tells her she is in danger. She says once the blood circle in the chronograph is complete, the Count Saint-Germain will sacrifice Gwen's life to achieve his goal, that the circle must never be completed. Gideon overpowers Paul and the butler and drags Gwen away before she can hear more. They hide in a church, where Gideon drops his rigid manner for a moment and does a ridiculous impression of an 18th century aristocrat. When they return to the present, Gwen takes him to an Indian restaurant which he has never experienced before. He calls her the cutest girl in the world and immediately backtracks. She calls him an arrogant son of a bitch. He smiles. Leslie has been running her own research parallel to everything happening to Gwen. She has filled notebooks with findings about the Count, the Lodge, and what she calls Raven magic. In the school bathroom, she shares everything with Gwen, until their history teacher, Mr. Whitman, who turns out to be a secret lodge member, bursts in and confiscates all her notes. Charlotte had recruited him. Gwen, furious, follows a ghost she has been seeing in the corridors for days. He introduces himself as James August Peregrine Pimplebottom, born 1762, spectacularly oblivious to his own death, and deeply flattered by her attention. He tells her the Count was known to be able to read minds, to enter people's thoughts. Before he can say more, the school bell rings, and he vanishes. Then Gideon's limousine pulls up outside. Every girl in school assumes he is there for Charlotte. He calls out Gwen's name. The mission to meet the Count himself takes place in 1782. Madame Rossini puts Gwen in a corset with carbon fiber boning and reinforced steel toes for self-defense, and Gideon in bright yellow stockings he does not want to wear. They are escorted to the Count's residence by Lord Brompton, who happens to be Gideon's ancestor. The Count is a misogynist who greets Gwen with open contempt and asks what her special magic is. She tells him she does not know. He is disappointed. She babbles about the future. The Prime Minister, elected parliaments, women with the vote, Queen Elizabeth II, while mentally reciting patriotic slogans to block him from reading her thoughts. The Count grabs her by the throat in a grip only she can feel, invisible to everyone else in the room, and warns her never to break his rules. On the carriage ride back, Gwen demands to know why Gideon blindly follows something he does not fully understand. He deflects. Then their carriage is ambushed in Hyde Park. The attackers carry the crest of the Florentine Alliance, the Lodge's ancient rival. Gideon is overwhelmed and badly beaten. Gwen stops the runaway carriage and uses the reinforced toes of her period shoes on one of the attackers, and they escape. She is sick afterward. She has hurt someone for the first time in her life. Gideon tells her she saved his life. He says it quietly, as though he means it. That night, Gideon calls Gwen and tells her he is going to look for the Ruby's prophecy. She tells him she is coming too. Grace blocks Charlotte from calling the lodge. Gwen cycles to the archive, where she and Gideon search through documents all night, and find a reference sending them to the Hall of the Dragons, and from there to a bank vault accessible only from 1942. Mr. George, who runs the lodge's day-to-day operations and was her grandfather's closest friend, agrees to help. They travel back to Christmas Eve 1942 and find a room sealed by blood. Gwen cuts her finger and the door opens. Inside, they find the prophecy. It reads that ruby-red drops of blood on snow-white ground, combined with the raven's ice-cold death in the light, will complete the circle of 12. Part of the prophecy is torn away. Then the guards break in. Gideon fights but is captured. Gwen, trying to escape, falls several floors into the snow below and lies there bleeding, semi-conscious, the prophecy running through her mind. The ghost boy from school appears beside her in the snow. He is always here, he says. This is where he plays, and tells her she has what she needs to escape. She remembers the locket from her birthday. It is Lucy's locket. She uses it as a key to unlock a door in the building behind her, drags herself inside, and faints. When Gwen wakes, she is in the lodge's medical room. Gideon is there. The doctor says she has hypothermia, a concussion, and numerous bruises. She may not recover. Gideon tells him she is stronger than they think. He threatens Falk with the inner circle, then is told by Mr. White to stop and simply stay with her. He does. When Gwen comes around, she tells Gideon she saw them together in the past, both of them, in period costumes, at a ball, looking close. She asks what the missing piece of the prophecy says. He tells her he does not know, but that whatever it says, their fate is in their own hands. He is not leaving her. On the day of the school ball, Gwen comes downstairs in Lucy's gown. Grace shows her the family portrait and points to a small boy standing beside her grandfather. It is Robert, his little brother, who fell from a church window as Gwen understands at last what her special magic is. Gideon arrives at the door looking extremely well dressed. He escorts her out. At the ball, when they walk in together, every person in the room who assumed Charlotte would be on his arm falls quiet. The music shifts to something slower. They dance. Gideon tells her that with him she does not need any magic to be special. She is quite extraordinary, exactly as she is, and that is how the story ends. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and drop a like and a comment to keep me going. Thanks.